This is the first in a series of videos that comes under the umbrella of Build It and Prosper. As a property developer, I believe that property development can help you achieve and provide the lifestyle of choice that you and most of us want. In fact, it can be done at any age, whether you are in your teens or whether you are approaching or beyond pension age. So really, it's a business that has worked very well for me. And in this video series, what I'm wanting to do is to outline the steps that you would need to take to build a successful property development business. But the first place that this starts is deciding what you really want. What is that lifestyle of choice going to look like? And so in this video, we're going to cover 10 sections about that journey to discover what you really want and what you ultimately need to do. And then the follow-on videos will cover different subjects which will help you plan out that journey to help you achieve your lifestyle of choice. So make sure you subscribe to this video series, this channel should I say, and make sure you hit the notification bell. Of course, if you've already done that, that's great, and thank you for your support. If you like this video, give it a like at the end of it, of course, once you've watched the video, and make sure you join us in our membership community if you're not already a member of our membership community. So let's get started with the first section in this video. Remember, there's 10 sections to watch. What is it you really want? You see, most people never get what they want because they don't know what they want. Let me just repeat that. Most people never get what they want because they don't know what they want. Let's just unpack that just for a moment. Think about it when you were at school. Did you know what you wanted to do? Did you have that period where you had to make choices about the future courses that you wanted to take at school? And it came at a very early stage in your high school career, because you were generally asked at the end of the second year to specify what subjects you wanted to specialize in. And yet you seemed so far away from leaving school at that stage, another 4 years perhaps to go. And so there was a lot of uncertainty, and you didn't really know what you wanted. So you would generally take subjects that you were good at or had better grades in. But was that what you really wanted? Then perhaps you left school. Did you go to university and choose a course there, or did you go straight into the workforce? Did you really know what you wanted to do then? Did you have a vision for your life, how you would like to see it? Oh, you probably wanted to be wealthy. You probably wanted so many things, but did you have a real clear idea of what you wanted? And then perhaps you left university. Did you go into the specialist area that you had studied at university, or did you choose another career? I remember when I was working in the corporate world, which I did for the first 10 years of my life, and having brought in some graduate trainees into the business. And they had all sorts of discipline. I worked for a retail department store. I was the assistant general manager, and yet I would find that some of the graduates were coming with biology degrees. What did that got to do with retail? Did they have a desire to change? In other words, were they still confused? Was retail really what they wanted? Or was this just something where they could get the job? Was there less competition for this than the field that they were studying? And perhaps you go through life, and do you really know still what you want? My lawyer, I had for almost 40 years, a very competent lawyer. I remember him saying to me about 20 years from retirement, I absolutely hate this business because it had fundamentally, part of it had changed, but also he just didn't really like what he was doing. And he struggled on and he retired early at 60. But he never really enjoyed, particularly in those latter years, what he was chosen to do. And I say chosen to do because perhaps he followed in his father's footsteps. I'm not sure, but I got a feeling his father was a lawyer. So was that the easy default route to go and do what your dad did because you knew that? You see so many people in different fields, particularly perhaps in acting or politicians, whose fathers have been actors and politicians, or mothers have been actors and politicians. And you will find that in many fields. Doctors sons and daughters become doctors' sons, become doctors and become doctors. Bit tongue twister there. Never mind, you get the point. In other words, people don't really decide what they want. So the first thing you have to do is decide what you really, really want. Create your dream life. What is it you would like that to be, without wondering how you're going to get there? Because living a life full of passion and living a life where you do what you want to do and to live the life of your dreams is truly to be alive. And yet so many people die in their own shoes while standing up. So consider this. The first task that I want to set you is really decide what you want. Having decided what you really want, you're going to have to quantify this. This is not really so much about putting the plan in place and how you're going to achieve that, but just simply quantifying what that will mean. Inevitably, it's going to involve having money, and it's going to involve having plenty money, because whatever it is you want to achieve, to have that total time freedom, you're going to have to create a pot of money. And you're going to do that in various ways. But that's not what I really want to discuss here now. What I want to discuss is quantifying what it is that you need in order to make that happen. Whether that's traveling around the world, traveling to exotic locations, doing charity work in different countries. In other words, having the income so that therefore allows you to do those things that you want. Or maybe there's some material possessions that you want to have. So whatever that lifestyle looks like, in order to help you achieve that, you're going to have to quantify that. And you're going to have to quantify that in financial terms. So you're going to have to list all the different things that you want in terms of maybe material things. All the things that is going to cost. What is your time? In other words, what are you going to need to live on for that period of time? Whether that be a short period or a long period. What's the total cash amount of that? So if you're a young person and you're going to live to 100 and you're, say, only 20 years old, then what's 80 years of income going to look like in order to sustain the lifestyle that you're looking to achieve? So that quantification is the part that is fundamental here. So do that quantification, and then we'll move on to the third stage here. We've talked about deciding what you really want, and we've talked about what is the financial implications of making that happen. But I just want to slow down just for a moment and have you think about, is this really what you want? You see, so often we see people striving for what they think they really want, as often material possessions. Perhaps it's fame, perhaps it's fortune. But is it what they really want? And does it not ultimately destroy them? I mean, imagine working for everything that you want and then discovering it's not really what satisfies you. I can think of people who buy very flash cars because they think that that's the car that they want. And then they discover, actually, it wasn't that big a deal, that they didn't really want that there's something else that they're searching for in their life. Think of celebrities. So often you see celebrities who achieve fame and fortune and have all the trinkets that go with that, and yet they're discontented. They haven't really got what they wanted. So just take a moment to think about what you really want. Now that you're clear in your mind what you really want, and you've decided what financial impact that will have on your life, in other words, what you need to achieve that in terms of financial terms. Now, I'm not talking about the plan because we'll come to that later, but in terms of what will financially need to happen in order to achieve that lifestyle that you want from what you really want. Now you need to think about, but why do you really want this? What is it that is so important that you achieve this? Answering the big why can be such a struggle for people, but knowing what that why is will help you as you drive it forward. And we'll talk about driving it forward a little bit more in the next segment. It took me a while to discover what my driving force is, and yet it was always there. And once I discovered it, it really helped me because I knew in the back of my mind why I was doing this and why it was important never, never to give up. You see, when I was at school, I was ridiculed badly. I was told that I wasn't good at sports. My brother, who was very good at sports, was a mirror to what I was not. In other words, people would see that he excelled in sports and would see that I did not. And so therefore I was told I was hopeless at sports. And in fact, I compounded it because I believed that and therefore didn't even try to become good at sports. I wasn't that great academically because again, I believed because people, my teachers and other people told me I wasn't. My classmates told me that I was thick, that I wasn't able to do the things that they were able to do, that academically I was challenged and I couldn't achieve. And yet, later in life, I discovered that academically I could excel because in fact, I had done courses and I had passed certifications with flying colours. I even started a university course and I was getting good grades. You see, I suddenly had belief in myself. I had suddenly decided to discard the lack of belief that other people had in me. And I said, you know what, Jim, you can do this. And I started to discover that I could do this. But it took me a long time. And what really still drives me today is because I have got this vision of what I want my life to be, and I have not achieved that yet. I also have a driving force that I need to still prove to my classmates that I can do this. I need to prove to my teachers that I can do this. And yet, I don't know any of my teachers. I don't know any of my classmates anymore. But it's important because that's what still drives me. Now, I could go to a therapist and I could say, you know, this doesn't matter. But the point is that I have dealt with the issues that period of time in my life brought me. But it still provides me with a driving force to keep me going today, to achieve the things that I want to achieve. Are you a wage slave? Now, what do I mean by that? In other words, do you trade your time for a set amount of income? So let's assume in a scenario that you are working 40 hours a week and you get whatever that rate is. Now, clearly it's probably a salary, but it may be an hourly rate. So that whatever that amount happens to be times the 40 hours gives you the amount of income that you earn. Now, in order to increase this income, the only way you can do it is by working more hours. Now, it may be that you are in sales or some sort of commission program or bonus program where your productivity of this amount, in other words, you can change this amount because you are on a percentage. So let's assume you maybe sell a car, so you might get a certain percentage. But if you maybe moved on and sold luxury boats, a much higher price item, then the amount of income that you're going to earn is going to go up because you've upscaled into a higher price bracket of items that you're selling. But nevertheless, whatever the scenario is, it's limited. Your income is limited by the number of hours that you work. In other words, the only way that you can increase that is to be able to split yourself. But if you're working for somebody else, you can't do that. The only way to do that is in a business. And once you have a business, then you have the ability to grow that business and you have the ability to take your entrepreneurial talents, which we all have possessed in some sort of way, and use those entrepreneurial talents and increase the amount that you can take in without being a slave to the number of hours that you work. In the last section, we talked about the need to move from being a wage slave to being a business owner. And in order to do that, you probably are going to have to start a business on a part-time basis. Now, clearly, I believe property is the best business to be in, but we'll talk about that in future videos. For the meantime, what I want to do is to focus on the process of taking yourself from starting a business probably part-time. In other words, you'll probably be an employee still while you do that, and you're going to move into also a part-time business. And so this means that you're going to be working whatever the number of hours here is, which might be 40 hours, and then you'll be using, depending on what your work schedule is, but on a typical work schedule for a lot of people, they'll be working maybe 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever it is during the day, Monday to Friday, and then they will have time off, and that will be generally the evenings. So you've got the evenings, and then you've got the weekends. And there's a sacrifice there. In order to achieve more, you're going to have to sacrifice some of that time. And therefore, it's very important that you communicate, if you have a family, with the rest of the family, what you're trying to do, and actually include them in as much of the decision-making process as possible, even though they may not be involved in the business. Of course, if they can be involved in the business in some way, then it will help your workload in order to get the business off the ground. And so your first objective then is to go from a part-time business to a full-time business. And the reality is, at this stage, you're probably just going to still be on your own. So this is a very difficult phase, because in fact what you're having to do is you're having to carry out every function of the business, whatever that happens to be. So whatever the business happens to be in, but in addition to that, you'll have all the different functions of accounting and looking after product fulfillment, whatever that happens to be, and all the different things in servicing the business. And there's only one person to come to, and that will be you. But if you want to grow the business to anything substantial, which you're likely to need if you want to achieve that lifestyle of choice, then you're going to need to move to the second phase of business development, which we'll cover next. The second stage is to develop it from being a solo business, in other words, where you are in the business yourself, and developing it into a business where there's other people helping you in that business. And clearly there's lots of things that need to happen there. You need to create your vision, you've got to have your business plan, but let's not get into a huge amount of detail at the moment. What we're looking at is to be able to transition from you just being a full-time, in other words, just times 1, to full-time times 2 to 5 people. And a lot of people will look at this and think, well, this is an expense, and clearly it is an expense to the business. And so what you want is that these people to be net contributors to the business. And so therefore, you're placing a value on what they're doing. So you maybe move from one to one other person. So what is that person going to do to increase the value of the business, but also to take the business forward? So you're going to have to decide what is it that you need that person to do that will then free up some of your time to then start thinking about the next stage of the business. And you're going to have multiples of these people joining you in your business, which are then going to be able to help grow the level of income that the business generates, and also go into the bottom line. Third stage of this development is to move to the lifestyle of choice. And this is where you're able to remove yourself from the business, from the day-to-day. And so therefore, your main role then becomes looking after the vision of the business. And what you will find is that once you get to a certain level in the business, and you will start to plateau. And what got you there will need to change to take you to the next level. And so therefore, when your business reaches its first 100,000, you will then probably be moving into the business where you're employing the first person. But then as you triple that turnover to 300,000, you're maybe then going to have your 2 to 5 employees in the business by that stage. But what's taking you from that 100,000 to 300,000 then needs to move forward and change to take you from 300,000 to 1 million, because that then will change the focus, and what took you from the 100,000 to the 300,000 will not take you from the 300,000 to the million. So you have to continually realign your vision and think about where the business is going. And eventually what you're doing is you're looking to grow your business to the point where, remember in the second section, we talked about what is that financial number that we need to achieve. So you're growing your business to that level to achieve that number. And therefore, once you've achieved that and you've brought in people into key positions, you've managed to release your input to the business, which is one of the hard things that entrepreneurs find to do, is actually to be able to say, I can rely on somebody else to do this, because we all have the belief that we can do it better than anyone else. And yet, if we adopt that attitude, then our business will stagnate. And so therefore we have to get beyond that, and we have to be willing to trust. But it does mean selecting the right people and making sure you've got the right people in place in order to do that. And so in that process, we then are able to move into a lifestyle of choice where we're able to pull back and have the business systemized, and you'll have to introduce systems, but having key people in place that communicate together and help us achieve that business that works on its own. In other words, essentially like a format of a franchise. Think of a McDonald's, which is always used as the prime case of a business that works basically from a manual. In other words, they can take somebody into any part of their business and very quickly train them up and be able to run that part of the business. And that's what you ultimately need to achieve. And when you have that and it works as a perfectly oiled machine, you can pull back and enjoy your lifestyle of choice. I have for you a 5-step action plan arising from the areas that we covered in this video. First, decide what you really want. Second, decide what it would take to achieve that. In other words, think of the monetary amount that you would need to accumulate in order to achieve that. Third, revisit this. Is this what you really want? Fourth, why do you want this? And fifth, what is it that drives you? I hope you found that helpful. Please put your comments and suggestions in the box below for any issues arising from this video. Remember, there's another 8 videos in this series, so if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell to make sure you're notified of when the next video in this series is being released. If you've liked this video, give us a like. And share it also with your friends and family. Use the share link, and also remember we have a membership community, so if you want to join that, you'll find some details in the description below or in the header above. There's a link to take you through where you can register for that, and remember, it's free to join. Until the next video, I wish you a very good Christmas and a happy and prosperous new year, although I will be talking to you before then, just immediately before the new year. So I hope all goes well with you. I hope your plans go to according to plan, should I say, and that there's not any more restrictions brought in from the current situation. Take care, and again, a Merry Christmas. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos, then click to watch the next video. Please remember to visit our website at builditandprosper.com, Together app, or click on the button on the YouTube header if you're on desktop.